Hello, and welcome to another episode of Casting Views, a podcast where we take random subjects, a little bit of everything and anything, and cast views. My name's Lou, and I'm here with.
Dan, hello.
And today's subject, we're going to be tackling something that I think everybody can kind of relate to. We're going to be tackling the dark side of social media. Now, when we look at social media, I kind of went into this thinking, what do we actually use social media for? So, what really do you use social media for?
Twitter is mainly just to keep an eye on some trends like video games and sports, really, if I'm being honest. And Facebook is just to keep in touch with a few members of the family, really. But it is purely just I want to follow a few video games outlets. I want to follow a few, I don't know, bands I like, or vinyl. Follow a few vinyl deals, which has made me spend a bit of money, so I'm not happy with that. But yeah, it's just generally to get some info. I think just a bit more sort of info about the stuff I like.
Well, obviously, social media has changed a lot, maybe even so much as maybe like the past 10, 15 years. And the reason that this has been quite fitting is because recently there's been something that's been circulating on social media that I've found relatively interesting, also dangerous, but relatively interesting. And it's going to link into what my first subject is going to be when we talk about the dark side of social media. And that is social media trends. So stuff that kind of goes viral, gets on your trending page on either Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all of a sudden you get people that are copying it. Now, I don't know if you've seen recently, but there's been a trend that's been going around with the hashtag, I think, milk crate challenge.
I've Do you know what? Right, I've seen a couple of people on Facebook, my Facebook timeline, mention it, but I've not actually seen it.
Right, for a bit of context then, what the milk crate challenge is, I think this has really taken America by storm as opposed to here, because a couple of them are kind of cross country and a couple of them are kind of specific. But you get milk crates, which are like those hard plastic boxes that stack, a bit
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when the
yeah.
milkman delivers them to you. Them ones there. So what this involves is stacking a series of these milk crates to form like a pyramid shape and then walking across the top all the way back down. And then if
Okay.
you get to the bottom, you've succeeded and you get, your online clout and that sort of thing. So I saw this pop up and obviously saw a guy fall off of the top from about 15 feet and hit his face on the floor.
Jeez.
And I thought, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to click on this trend challenge. And then one of the top trending videos on the hashtag was a guy falling off and apologies because it's going to be a little bit graphic, but there's no other way to describe it. He literally snapped his arm in half to the
Oh
point
man.
where this video showed bone protruding from the
Oh
guy's
God.
forearm. And it kind of got me thinking, what idiotic stroke stupid social media trends have we seen before that have resulted in really serious injury, and why do they come about? So the earliest one that I could kind of think of, and you probably remember this as well, because again, this was kind of so many people were involved in this, was planking. Do you remember
Yeah.
planking?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Now, obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, planking was basically a trend in which you would take a picture or maybe a video of yourself lying face down on the floor like a plank, and basically just in the most weird place you could possibly imagine. But it really quickly started to get a little bit dangerous. So I think there was a video of someone doing it on the M1 when it was empty at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And it progressively got a little bit more dangerous and more dangerous to the point where people were falling off of very high things and basically just getting injured. And I kind of thought to myself, why is it that we do social media trends, and what extent do we think is too far? Because when it comes to social media and what you post online and the way that people go, there feels like there isn't a reasonable limit. So I've got a couple of trends, and I'm going to see if you know what they are, if you've heard of them before. A couple of them are recent, and see what you think, and talk about some really serious incidents in which people have been genuinely really badly injured.
Oh man.
Now, the first one that I've got for you, I can only find it referenced in a couple of ways. It's either called the choking game. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh because it's actually
No,
not funny. It
no,
isn't funny.
that sounds quite bad.
It's either called the choking game or the blackout game. Have you
Oh
heard of that?
man. No, but I could probably guess.
So this is actually something that started a little bit before social media. So it was registered in America between 1995 and 2007. 82 people had died as a direct result of this
Wow.
challenge. Now, the only way that I can describe it is what you do is you can either stand up against a wall and you basically try and hyperventilate. You breathe super quickly to the point where you get lightheaded, and then you get somebody to apply pressure to your chest and it basically stops the blood flow to your brain, and you essentially get a bit of a high, apparently. Again, it's something that went viral a couple of years ago. It was probably 2016, 2017, where videos started hitting the likes of TikTok, Instagram, that sort of thing. Even Snapchat was a place where I'd seen people that I knew do it. And again, even in terms of recent deaths, people have got to a point where they are taking it too far. Most recently, there was a 12-year-old in Oklahoma who died this July as a direct result of
That's
attempting
just
this
sad,
challenge.
isn't it? That's just
And in
sad.
April, again, a boy in Massachusetts was on life support for 19 days and suffered permanent brain damage as a result of this challenge, basically. And so I don't know. I guess the blackout challenge has been one that's been around for a bit longer. But again, if you look at instances of people actually being seriously injured as a result of this, they're really still very, very common. And it's really strange. And obviously, there's stuff that's posted to TikTok, that sort of thing. Again, another one very recently, kind of related to film. You know the film Bird Box, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Good
everybody's
film. Good film. Good
blindfolded.
film.
Can't. Oh, I hated that film. I thought it was
Oh,
stupid. But the social media trend is even more stupid. You'd be pleased to know.
we're going to
So the
address
bird.
this. We're going to address that comment about the film in a future episode. But carry on.
We just lost out on a potential sponsor we have.
I'm going to do one on films, and right, I've already got my script written now. So go on. Carry on anyway.
Okay, so the Bird Box Challenge is based on obviously the popular but potentially not very good Netflix film.
Yeah.
And basically, what you do is you put on a blindfold and you do challenges. So this started off kind of innocent enough, people trying to walk in a straight line and having it filmed. Where do you think it went? What do you think people attempted to do while blindfolded?
I can only imagine crossing a road, driving.
Yeah, crossing the roads. Actually, yeah, that's very true. They literally became the stupid chicken trying to cross the road by
Like Frogger.
blindfolding
I've
themselves.
got Frogger in my mind. Do you remember the game Frogger?
Yeah, 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 yeah. It
That's
was a
what
bit
I've
like
got.
that. Yeah, a bit like that, where you kind of blinded yourself and then decided to step into oncoming traffic.
Jeez,
Um,
man.
in January 2019, there was a girl again in the States who crashed her car whilst driving and also attempting the Bird Box Challenge because she blindfolded herself and filmed it whilst driving to see if she could drive without being able to see.
Man.
Yeah. It actually prompted YouTube to ban all uploads referencing the Bird Box Challenge because they genuinely didn't want any more people to get hurt. Because again, the one common theme that we see with these challenges is that they start off innocent enough with people again attempting to do everyday chores to the point where you all of a sudden get someone speeding down a motorway blindfolded because they want to be the best, and they kind of want to break that previous barrier, I guess. It sounds so corrupt in my head as well when I say it.
I don't know. Is it like so? So if we go back to the planking one, yeah, I'd heard of that. And whilst people hurt themselves, it did start off as quite. When you saw the videos, some of them the pictures, some of them were quite funny. You know,
Yeah,
like I'll
yeah,
see someone planking on an escalator in a tube station, and so you know, if they were doing it safely, it was funny. But it's about that one. I think it was about maybe who could top it, who could take it to the next level,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's then when the craziness comes in. The second one you mentioned, the blackout one, I'd not heard of that, and that's just. I mean, the question I had in my head was why. You know, because the others are, and like the milk crate challenge, are doing something initially fun, but it's taken it to that next level or that extreme level. But that blackout one seems like it is just intended to hurt you.
Well, that again, that's actually very true what you've said because the blackout one is the only one that seems like it's not actually for any kind of tangible benefit of being popular online.
Yeah.
However, I think that one started as a result of like the bit of a high that you get as a
Right.
result of starving your body of oxygen,
Right.
basically. So you kind of feel a little bit high, and as
Yeah.
a consequence, kind of half blackout, pretty much.
Because the only reason I was saying that was like this bird box one. I was going to say, is it a case of, and I don't know, but has social media, especially if you've grown up with it, is it a case of what you see is almost like it's kind of like TV, so you can't get hurt. You're seeing people do it, so you can't hurt yourself. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like if you see 100 videos of the bird box challenge and people do it safely, or 100 milk crate challenges, does it look like it's not like it's fake, but it's a form of entertainment? People are doing it, and it's on social media, so it can't be bad. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's the way it is. Again, like people consume again media and entertainment in different ways. Maybe people do look at social media as almost like a dramatization. They look at it for their own entertainment, and so yeah, like I said, it's almost like it's not real to people when they see dumb shit like this happening. Basically, it's mad. I mean, I can't justify it. I've never attempted any of these things, and I would hope that I wouldn't.
Well, I just think if you drive anyway, you know sometimes how dangerous driving could be, even if you're looking with both your eyes. So I'm thinking, at what point do you think blindfolding yourself and trying to drive is not going to end in carnage?
Well, this is the thing. Do people see stuff online and do they turn around and see a challenge where somebody's taken it to an extreme and walked through traffic and think because somebody else has done it, surely I can do it? Is there a bit of an arrogance there because you see it as a trend and you see it as something that's supposed to be harmless and playful and think, yeah, I can do that, but just take it to the next extreme because how hard can it be? Because I've seen someone already do it. I mean, I'm sure that poor guy that broke his arm doing the milk crate challenge didn't think he was going to come away with his arm in three pieces that day.
No, no.
And
Well,
so
you'd like to hope not.
yeah, you would like to own it. So I don't know whether or not that's the case. People look at it and see other people have done it and think, well, they're just normal people like me because I'm on social media as well. So why can't I get away with doing that?
Again, is it a generational thing? And seeing these challenges are just normal, and so it's like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to attempt that.
Yeah. That's the thing. I feel like these trends now have almost become an acceptable thing to do because you've seen them so common on social media now. So it's almost just seen as normalized because a lot of the links as well, because I've got a couple more to talk about, I've seen it where you nominate other people to also do these
Oh yeah,
challenges.
yeah,
And so as a result of being nominated by your mates, it's a case of a bit like if you were in person and someone dares you to do something, or if you used to play a game of dares, ultimately someone always ends up taking it too far. And
yeah.
that's again what we'll see with a couple of others. So one again that you might be familiar with, and I think that this one took off a little bit more in the UK than it did in the States. Now this was neck nominations.
Not heard of that one either. Neck
No way!
nominations.
Wow. Okay. Now this started off as a trend where what you do is you would nominate one of your friends to essentially down an alcoholic drink as quickly as they could. Sounds
Okay,
harmless enough.
yeah.
What then began to happen is obviously by virtue of people wanting to outdo each other, people started to make almost like mixers of loads of different alcoholic drinks. So it'd be a shot of sambuca mixed in with a beer, mixed in with tequila, all of that sort of thing. So the drinks progressively got worse to the point where people were putting cinnamon and raw eggs in their drinks.
Oh
And
dear.
then it got to the point where ultimately there was animal abuse. Now, you'll probably
No.
again know where this is going. So, again, search them at your own free will. I don't know if many of them are available, but I have seen them before on YouTube and I did see them at the time. So, I think this kicked off probably when I was at university. So, this was between maybe 2014 to 2016, was when this was popular. And it progressively worsened to the point at which people were swallowing in their drinks live mice, live chicks, and live fish to basically get one up on the people that they'd been nominated by.
See, I
Now,
remember this now, but only the fish. I
yeah,
didn't realise the other ones.
yeah. And again, I actually do remember some of these videos circulating the likes of Twitter and Facebook at the time, and they actually were horrific. And I just think to myself, what actually does drive you to the point to think that that's just generally okay? Like I can think of no situation in my daily life where I'd want to like to swallow a live mouse, let alone put it on the internet
See,
and
and for me, do what you want to yourself. But once you start bringing animals into it, that's
yeah,
just
again,
that's a line. You've crossed it. You've crossed
yeah,
it.
this is what I mean, and I just don't understand that because if you want to, yeah, mix some raw eggs and put some Tabasco sauce in your pint of Guinness and then chug it, absolutely fine. Okay, do what you want. But again, it got to the point where there were some really, really horrific examples. And again, similarly, this is another one that YouTube, as an entity, banned all references to at some point. I mean, there's obviously videos that have slipped through the net, but again, they tried their best ultimately to stop it. And again, it kind of begs the question: whose responsibility is it to stop these social media trends becoming dangerous? Is it the responsibility of somebody like Twitter, someone like Facebook, someone like YouTube to turn around and just start blanket banning these videos? Or is there an individual responsibility? Because I think if we're leaving it to individuals, you ultimately get to the point where someone either dies or someone either does something illegal. Because that's where all of these have gone so far.
Yeah, you see, that's a difficult one because the challenges in and of themselves and at their base level are fine.
Yeah,
Apart from, I think, other than the bird box and the blackout one, I think what have we said? I think the planking, I think it's fine depending on how you do it. I think the bird box, if you were doing it sort of around a house or trying to navigate through an office or something, could be fun.
yeah.
This one, the drinks, okay, there's an element about at some point you just know that the drinks are going to be up the ante. So rather than a pint or a shot, it's going to be right. Mix half a bottle of vodka with a bottle of tequila or something.
Yeah.
But do you stop how can you ban something almost before it's got dangerous, and you stop something because you fear it might do? That's then where it becomes a difficult blurred line.
Yeah. Because this is the thing. I mean, again, YouTube have really been the platform that, from all of the research that I'd done and what I'd looked at, who had ultimately taken the first step to try and get these things taken down. Because I guess that's what the thing is. Ultimately, people are incentivized to take it further because people always want to look for the next extreme. So people are looking for
Yeah.
how mad can this challenge be, and ultimately, the person that makes it as mad as it could possibly be is ultimately the person that gets the most clout. I think is the word that is the youth are using nowadays.
Well, yeah. Well, that's it. It's all about chasing the likes, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Chasing
the
the
thing.
likes.
And so this is what I mean. At what point does a company have to turn around and take some responsibility to say you are legitimately facilitating this being a trend? Because you have to remember as well, most of the instances of these social media trends where you look at the choking game, when you look at the deaths and the injuries that has resulted of that, most of them are under the age of kind of 14, 15. And
Mm.
again, these are being facilitated by platforms like TikTok, like Twitter, like Instagram. Is there a point at which they need to take some responsibility to say, right, this is something that we're not going to allow on the platform because we can't have it becoming any more of a trend than it might already be?
Firstly, I want to say the onus should be on people to not be so stupid.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
to think
that's
there's
true.
common sense has got to take part. But then, what you just said at the end there is quite interesting. That did you say they're under 14?
Yeah, so the ones from the choking game, the majority of the people that have been seriously injured, stroke have died from that, are actually, under the ages of between 14, 16. They're all younger than that kind of age range.
Yeah, so they're kids, and even us, myself, and even yourself. When you were kids, there were sort of challenges and stupid game or dares that you'd hear and would go around the playground or around the school. They just weren't on YouTube, or because we didn't have it at the time.
Yeah.
They weren't on YouTube or social media. So I think kids can be pulled into it or go along with it without necessarily understanding the danger. But then, at what point does a YouTube or a TikTok say, right, well, what could be a harmless challenge, we can't allow that
Yeah,
on the platform?
yeah.
Which is why I say for me that choking one is so different to all the others, though. That's the thing for me. Like for me, that feels dangerous, even if
Even without the need to chase a better high, basically on the yeah, it's
yeah, it's a
incredibly
dangerous one
dangerous
because
in and of
you're
itself.
trying to knock yourself out
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, yeah.
So
Basically, yeah,
so that feels like it's encouraging, and if you can't see where that's going to go, then I think that the onus is on people and the platforms. Something like the I'm laughing at the milk crate one. I think now I have seen some pictures. Yeah, it's silly and it is dangerous. I think the person who's doing it, the onus is on them.
yeah, yeah. That's true. To be fair, however, I've got two other examples, and again, I'm going to throw something slightly different in because these are challenges that have kind of been exacerbated by celebs, basically. Not
Okay,
celebs, by
okay.
social media personalities, characters, people that are popular on social media.
Those pesky
So
celebs.
one of them is, again, we don't call them this in the UK, but it's been referred to the Tide Pod Challenge.
Oh, okay.
Do you
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
this one?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now, Tide
yeah,
Pods are obviously like those little like laundry detergent tablet things that you
yeah.
get and you throw in with your washing. And the Tide Pod Challenge was essentially people just eating these things of detergent, basically. I don't know.
So was
Do you
that
know what? It
actually
sounds so
true then? Was it
stupid.
actually true then? I thought it was almost like an urban
No,
myth.
no, no. This was a legit thing because I've actually got statistics on it from America of the amount of people that were reported to the US Poison Control,
Go
that
on.
were all kids that basically did this. So it was first discussed on the internet in 2013, and this was due to Tide Pod's resemblance to kind of sweets because
Yeah,
they're kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
like
yeah.
coloured like purple and red and orange and
Well, our
that sort of thing.
dishwasher tablets, they do, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
smell nice, and they do
yeah,
look.
yeah, exactly. So maybe if you were kind of super young and didn't distinguish the difference, you would probably get them confused. And this is actually true because this has happened a lot. So, US Poison Control reported that 10,500 children younger than 5 were exposed to Tide Pods in 2016, with 220 teenagers also in 2016. Now, obviously, the exposures are just the ones that have been reported because obviously treatment has been required. Because, as you can imagine, it's washing powder. Basically, it's actually quite dangerous. Now, this was also exacerbated by YouTubers who went online and again did the challenge. Similarly, YouTube went on and tried to remove as many of them as they could. But again, they still exist on the internet. garnering like hundreds of thousands to millions of views. Now, the majority of the people that were actually injured or attempted it were, again, kind of under the ages of 18. So they were kids, basically, the ones that were
Mm.
trying it. And obviously, just by looking at the statistics, it was teenagers that were, again, the majority of the ones that were doing it. Now, Tide Pods have been linked to 10 deaths as of 2018, either in toddlers or actually older people with dementia who don't play into this because they've evidently eaten them by accident, essentially.
Yeah, and I think some of the
Um,
toddlers probably would have been as well,
yeah,
like
again, by
the
accident.
yeah, yeah,
But when you look again at what's been happening with it, it was a case of somebody trying to jump on a social media bandwagon to get views, but ultimately it was someone then trying to garner views from people that were vulnerable in the form of kids to get them to attempt to repeat this challenge. So again, there's a number of YouTubers, and I won't name any names because I don't want to give anybody any extra clout because of this
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
moronic
yeah.
challenge. Don't eat washing detergent, anyone. But again, how responsible then are these people as a result of spreading that challenge? Are they, as individuals, knowing that their viewer audiences are young, kind of again between the ages of probably what is like 12 and kind of 18? Are they kind of partly to blame for spreading of challenges like that that ultimately can potentially kill people?
Yeah, I think again, one like that is inherently stupid, right? Because you wouldn't, and I almost don't want to suggest things, but you wouldn't pick up a bottle of bleach or any other chemical. You wouldn't start doing that for fun, right?
Yeah,
And necking that. So I think there is an onus of responsibility, if especially if you are someone of reputation. So I
yeah,
think you can't stop people because the thing is, you can upload a video to TikTok, YouTube, whatever. There's millions and millions of people using it, right? How can you stop anything being uploaded? But I think you've got a responsibility, surely, as someone of celebrity or fame, to not do that,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because people will copy that. And again, it's treading a line between, oh, we should be allowed to do what we want. Yeah, I get that, but this you wouldn't do. Nobody would do this normally. This is a crazy challenge again.
Do you know what the difference is with this one? I think with this one, without the internet, this trend isn't a thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you wouldn't just randomly, again, back in, well, okay, maybe my very early days when I was very young, or your slightly earlier days when you didn't have the internet. I don't think that you would have just walked into your living room with your mum and your dad sat there and just decided to eat a washing up liquid tablet just for the sake of making them laugh.
no, exactly.
This is what I mean. So ultimately, it's just because of the clout that you potentially might get online.
Yeah,
This is ultimately why it's become a thing.
and the thing is, and I remember it in the papers, and you've just quoted figures. There are people that have genuinely died or been injured through
Yeah.
this that as not part of the challenge. So it's an inherently dangerous thing to do.
Yeah, and I think that this one again is specifically a dangerous challenge that has come about just directly as a result of social media. Because again, like I said, I just can't see this one being a thing. And the final one that I've got to talk about, which in and of itself, the title of the challenge sounds stupid, because this one is called the Fire Challenge.
Okay, well, you've not mentioned the obvious one. I thought you would, but go on. What's
Oh
this
no,
one?
I'm going to need to hear the obvious one now because I took a couple and I wanted to get different styles as well. So the fire challenge I've seen referred to in two different ways. There's one of them that's slightly stupid, and then there's one that's outstandingly stupid. So I'll start with the slightly stupid one first. Now this was started again, not to name names, by a TikToker with a rather large following. I think as of recording this, he's probably got 2 million TikTok followers. And it was basically someone spraying hairspray on a mirror in different shapes and then lighting it on fire to make pretty things in their bathroom. Now, again, why you think that your bathroom needs to be the set of a New
Yeah,
Year's Eve
why a
firework
mirror? Why
display,
the bathroom? Yeah.
I don't know. But again, each to their own, I guess. However, again, in terms of injuries, one of the most recent ones that I could find was that it was this May. It was a 13-year-old girl in Oregon, again in the States, ended up in an intensive care unit with severe burns as a result of it going
Oh no.
wrong, and found at the scene of the fire, I guess, was basically like an open bottle of like an alcohol type spirit thing that had been
Yeah, yeah.
used. Evidently, it's gone wrong, and she's basically set herself on fire. That's the one with the mirror. And then the other one that I've seen is basically people, and there is no way to describe this in a way that doesn't sound idiotic. It's nuts. This one is basically taking a flammable material and setting yourself on fire with it.
See, that is, yeah, why? That's
Yeah,
the
because I've
one
seen
word why.
people. Yeah, I've seen people stood in showers attempting this challenge, and what they do is they pour. Do you know, like hand sanitizer, for instance, is really
Yeah.
flammable. Basically, pouring stuff like that all over themselves, setting them on fire, and then attempting to put themselves out. And I'm like, this is absolutely nuts. And again, in my mind, another one that only exists because of social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of like think evolution would have kind of bred this kind of thing out of people by now. But for me, again, you see, it's like, yes, that is inherently dangerous, right? Setting yourself on fire. But again, the problem I have with it is it filters down to the children who have probably got no visibility of the maybe the safety precautions that some of the older people would be taking. Like you
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
not doing it in the shower is fine. It goes wrong, quickly put the shower on, right?
Well, it's not how that
Well,
went. I watched
I'm
it.
hoping that's what they've done it for. But once it gets down into the minds and the hands of kids, they're probably not seeing the the forethought of what could go wrong and how
Yeah.
to prepare for if it goes wrong. And that's why it's the tragedy for the children.
Yeah, and this is the thing. What I find with all of these challenges is they all kind of rely on. I don't want to use the word vulnerable, but kids are vulnerable in terms of influence, obviously, and so it kind of relies on vulnerable people in the form of children attempting to repeat this challenge to give the original creator of a potential video again more viewership, because then it's kind of stemmed from that, and keeping the challenge going means that you get more retweets, you get more likes, you get more views, and that's the biggest problem that I see with all of these trends is ultimately they're targeted at a particular audience, and from the examples that we've read, the majority of the victims or people that ultimately end off worse are kids who are vulnerable, who potentially don't know any better because they just don't.
Well, don't know any better, and also probably haven't got, like I said, the age behind them or experience behind them to understand where people aren't maybe not being honest isn't the right word, but like I said, where some people are older people who are doing it have probably got a lot of precautions around them or backups
Yeah,
in case
yeah.
anything goes wrong. Even if it is just a mate with a towel or something to
Yeah,
chuck on them.
yeah, yeah. It's forethought and it's planning as well. But this is the thing. When I looked again, it because even when I think when I was younger and planking was a thing, like it did start out as genuinely like quite a funny trend with people planking on
Yeah,
bins or
yeah,
whatever it might be,
yeah.
and then the papers got a hold of it, and it was people on planes or on tarmac on the A1 in the middle of the motorway, and then all of a sudden it picks up very quickly and gets very dangerous very quickly. And again, like I said, you just see examples of people essentially hurting themselves. I'm proud to say that I've not attempted any of these trends. I don't know if I plan to. Hopefully not. I can't see myself, like I said, either setting myself on fire or blindfolding myself and driving down the motorway anytime soon. But maybe we'll do it for a TikTok.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah. Didn't mention the ice bucket challenge because that was a huge one, wasn't it?
You know what?
Yeah.
Do you know what? Because I was going to talk about the ice bucket challenge, but the ice bucket challenge again, in terms of social media trend, is a
I
good
guess that
example
was a
of how
good one,
social media
actually.
trend,
That
yeah,
was a good one.
how
We'll
it
do
can
that
be
in the
good.
good side of it. Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
no,
this
you're
is
right.
what I
We'll keep
mean.
that for
So
the good
ultimately,
side.
it was a thing of it was a social media trend that never really went too far and was for a good cause, and so that's
Yeah.
kind of a good example of how it probably should be done.
And that was also one where children got involved as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But again, it's something that you could do safely, and there was never any issue with it in reality. Like people did get diggers out and that sort of thing and start pouring ice over them. But again, controlled environment. So I can't be angry at that.
And I said that earlier that as kids, we've all probably done stupid things as well. We just didn't film them, and they didn't then become not scams. They didn't become viral trends like the old gas taps in the science labs at school and deodorant cans with lighters. I'm not saying whether I sort of did that or not, but the old
Yeah,
impromptu
that's true.
flamethrower.
That's true. Yeah.
But but now you're seeing them like we mentioned in our last episode. Twitch, Twitter, YouTube is a normal form of entertainment viewing or normal part of life for a lot of people now. So you see something on there and you think, well, I'm going to do that, or I can do that.
Well, you know what, as well, because it kind of leads on a little bit to my next point in terms of kind of chasing the next high.
Mm.
So I've obviously kind of grown up in social media era where social media has been really easily accessible to me from when I was a kid until present day when I'm much older. And I've got a couple of social media scandals, which I think again have all kind of stemmed from people trying to be the next big stroke controversial thing.
Okay.
Now, one of them that I imagine you've heard of, because you probably couldn't have not heard of it, was Logan Paul.
Yep. Yep.
Um, yeah, obviously it's with reference to the Japanese forest, which has an association with suicide, and he essentially went in, filmed this vlog, and found somebody in this forest. He basically put this vlog out laughing and joking about suicide and that sort of thing, and then it was a humongous scandal again. It made proper mainstream news, which is obviously strange for kind of internet celebrities to get there. But again, it was kind of another illustration of what extent are people going to chase like the next most shocking thing, because I need to put content out, and social media is everything that I live for, because I am social media. Because again, when you look at Logan Paul, that's what he is. Started on Vine or whatever it was, moved to YouTube. His entire career is social media, and it's a case of how far are people really willing to go to try and become the next, the biggest, the most controversial, the funniest, whatever it might be, and what are they actually willing to sacrifice in terms of morals, and what is actually the right thing to do in order to get there.
Well, in an age where you can see anything you want, pretty much, it is that thing that stands out, or the person that tries to stand out, and like you said, that probably what clouds the judgment. Now,
Yeah,
that Logan Paul one, like I said, I know the story, but I don't know exactly. But yeah, I think you mentioned it. Is it not the fact almost not that he was almost trying to do a story on it, but was mocking it, wasn't it? And
yeah,
laughing
yeah.
about it.
So
And I think that's where
yeah,
the difference is.
yeah, yeah. That's what it was. Ultimately, again, there could have been a million ways to go about that situation, and he picked the single worst way to go about it. But again, he picked the single worst way to go about it because it's like, well, this is what I'm here to. This is what I'm actually here to do. That's ultimately, and that's the sick thing about it. That's what he was really there to do. Ultimately, that video when he first made it probably went exactly as he wanted it to go, because that's exactly what he wanted. Because otherwise, why would you be there making a video? He's
No,
not doing a
exactly. Yeah.
documentary like like on the statistics and on on what actually goes on and what has done over the course of a number of years in that place. He's gone there for the sake of making a 15-minute YouTube vlog, and he's literally got exactly what he wanted for content. And this is the thing, I just think that the chasing of trying to be controversial, trying to be like, it drives people to a point where they do horrifically immoral things. And again, who's responsible for it? Is it the platform responsible for not allowing that person to be a thing? Because again, when we look at it now, it's pretty much impossible to cancel people on social media, really. I mean, on a real level, when you look at Logan Paul, I mean, he's just come off of his boxing fight with Floyd Mayweather. He's got more followers on the internet than he's ever had before. In reality, he's kind of got off scot free with it. And it's a little bit mad to think that you can kind of do that when you've actively chosen and made a choice to do something like that. I don't know.
Well, I think it's because you do an apology video, you do an apology tweet, you wait a little bit of time, and then you come back with a different video, and everyone then forgets. I
Yeah,
think in
yeah,
this age of fire and forget videos, and it's just the
yeah.
next content, the next drop, it gets forgotten.
Well, this is the thing as well, because I'd kind of respect it more if people came out and just tried to be honest about it and said, you know what, I made a really serious mistake in the fact of I actually intend. That's what I intended to do. I just didn't appreciate.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? In terms of, rather than turning around and saying, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I made such a terrible mistake. I didn't mean to do it." No, you absolutely 100%
yeah, yeah, yeah.
intended to do exactly what you did. What you're going to have to do is own it.
Yeah, because you wouldn't accidentally come across a wood known for that, find a body, and then mock it.
Yeah, and then put a video out which has been fully edited for 15 minutes. Like, you absolutely intended to do that. So say that that's what you intended to do, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
move on from it from there. But again, it's weird because again, like I said, the power of social media. When you look at the people that were putting out the bloody Tide Pod videos and all of these videos egging it on, there's no repercussion for that, and that's the thing. Like at that point, does it need to be social media companies that step in?
But do you think it's a fact that I don't know how so he had what you said 2 million? No, how many followers? He's probably got a hell of a lot more than that,
Oh,
right?
he's got tens of millions of followers. I can have a quick look.
But say you've got 20 million followers, right? Just for example, you might do something like that and you might lose what 2 or 3 million followers, but a
Yeah,
lot of your followers are going to stay.
yeah, yeah.
And are we at that point now where Because the ones I can't remember exactly all the stories, but it was PewDiePie. I know it was more he was being hit by some of his sponsors, wasn't it? And I think
Yeah, yeah,
that's the difference. You do something on TV or a program does something, or a football team, and it's almost like, because let's face it. I know we're talking about potentially doing a thing about scandals and celebrities in the future, but it's all about the bottom line of whether you lose face with sponsorships or investors. That's what makes or breaks people or reputations. So the fact is, if you've got 20, 30, 40 million followers and you lose 10% of those, well, you still got the other 90% who are backing you up.
yeah. And the thing is as well, again, it just doesn't ever stop that chase to be more controversial, and that's where the kind of issue lies with me when you look at social media, and where kind of the negative lies with it is, again, there's nothing to really
Yeah.
decentivize
Yeah.
people chasing the next high, because ultimately if you do it and people don't like it, it doesn't matter because it's forgotten because it moves too quickly. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of the big issue that I have.
Maybe I'm just too jaded after all these years, but it's like, especially after the last 2 years, isn't it just nice sometimes seeing a nice, kind video on TikTok? That's something that makes
Yeah.
you smile genuinely, that makes you
Yeah.
feel good about being a person. Those are what we want to see more of.
Because again, I mean, you mentioned PewDiePie as well, and he was one of the creators that was down on my platform. And I've only used them because, again, they're huge creators, basically. And he had a couple of scandals. There was one where he used racist language, and then there was another one where he was on Fiverr. Do you know what the website Fiverr is?
Yeah, 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 that's the one. I
Yeah,
remember that
and it
now,
was
yeah.
basically like the anti-Semitism claims that were obviously brought about as a result of what he'd asked somebody to put up on a sign. And again, it's kind of like, right, with that joke, what he's done is he's chased the thrill of having the most controversial joke. Again, I think this isn't in my notes, but Shane Dawson is, again, another internet social media personality who has been absolutely lambasted for jokes that he's made as a result of, yeah, he wanted really dark, controversial humor, and he's just continuously chased the next most controversial thing. And it's like, are we using social media to find content, or kind of promote content that we like, or are we just looking for somebody who will do the next dumbest shit, basically?
I don't know if it's one or two things, because what's interesting is for me, it's like the PewDiePie at the time was massive, so didn't need to be controversial or do anything crazy
Yeah,
because it was huge anyway. But is it almost as well that do they get bored and think, right, what do I do to push the envelope? But rather than doing something massively creative, they do something massively irresponsible
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or something again that someone should say to them, yeah, do you think that's actually a good idea? I've seen this written down now. Maybe we should like, put it in a drawer and come back to it a couple of hours later.
You know what? That's a good point as well, because in my mind, I've just thought to myself, irresponsible is easier than creative.
Yeah,
To be and to do something irresponsible is ultimately, it's easier to do that than it is to be creative with a new idea and ultimately try and push something that you might be good at, as opposed to just being controversial for the sake of it. And
yeah,
again, it kind of links to the trends. Like, it's, again, just a progressive train that gets worse and worse and worse until you hit
yeah.
massive scandal. Then everyone ultimately gets over it, and then it's next trend. It's a bit like with these public prank videos that were going around online. Do you ever remember? I can't remember what YouTubers were responsible for it. I think one of them was that Russian guy. Was his name Vitali or something? Anyway, he basically did pranks where he dressed up in like white like robes with a briefcase, ran up to people and just dropped the briefcase next to them and ran. He was basically doing like bomb prank videos, and then he dressed up as like a Russian gangster, and he was saying stuff like, "Oh, it's your life, 60 seconds," and then would just run. And again, it's like, yeah, I understand public prank videos. Yeah, it's a bit like, the difference to me is the difference between impractical jokers. Like, when you look at public pranks on impractical jokers, they're all kind of, the joke is really them. They are the punchline.
Yeah,
Whereas when
yeah,
you look at the way
exactly.
that
Yeah.
YouTube pranks went and social media pranks went, it was the fear of the person randomly being videoed was the punchline. And
See,
that's the
and
big problem that I have with that.
yeah, and that's exactly what I think. Like I said, maybe I'm missing the joke of it, but it's like once you start targeting the public for mean stuff or cruel stuff, I think again that stepped the line because you just don't know some people what they're going through,
Yeah,
what their makeup is, and I think cheap views at the expense at the mean expense of people, or the cruel expense of people. Again, I just don't have time for that.
Because that's the thing again when you look at it, but again it's a case of who's responsible for it. So when you look at Impractical Jokers, we can accept that that program as a program, the punchline is ultimately the four blokes that are on that program, right? They are the punchline. But when you look at that, it's obviously got directors and people that sign off ideas because it needs checks and balances. Whereas when you look at social media, there is nothing that is there for that. So a single creator
Yeah,
feels like he can get away with a prank like that because there's no one to do checks and
yeah,
balances on him
yeah. But to play
or her.
devil's advocate, yeah, to play devil's advocate a little bit here, not about the last bit, but we say about some of the outrageous stuff that happens. Now, there's a fine line between that and comedians, because comedians, especially kind of over here in the UK, we've got some that really do cross the line. Well, I say cross the line, maybe in my view, but almost nothing is this the right way of saying it? Nothing is off limits. There isn't anything that's off limits for a lot of
Yeah,
these
yeah.
comedians, and some find some jokes really poor taste. So is it a case of, because TikTok is still seen as potentially, it is in the hands of children, whereas a comedian, it's after 9 o'clock at night, it's a show you have to go to and it's over 18s only. And when you're signing up to go to watch that comedian, generally what they're about. Whereas on social media, you could just be flicking through the For You page and it might come up
Yeah, yeah,
and you
yeah.
didn't buy into that. Is that the problem?
Yeah, that's the thing because when you look at again TV and when you look at like we just talked about comedians, again, you know exactly what you are getting when you go to watch that television program or when you go and watch that comedian because there are checks and balances that have to be done even going into it. You need to be 18 to go and see X comedian. You probably know I know what style Jimmy Carr is like. I know what style Peter Kay's like. They are very different comedians and you know what you're going to get with each of them when you sign up to go to one of their shows. But again, like you say, when it comes to social media, there is no barrier. You just get the most extreme if you want it. And again, I think that's where the problem lies.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting because again, we've said this throughout a couple of our podcasts, but it's the beauty and also the danger of modern technology and modern sort of social media. It's fantastic, but there is that element of danger or unpredictability around it.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the thing. I just think that even with social media and how I've come to learn about how social media ultimately works and how it's changed over the course of my lifetime, I've just seen it get way more extreme. And it's actually been a really, really quick turnaround with that.
I do want to, because I've just realised the time. I do want to move on to a couple of things I said when we chose Dark Side of Social Media. I kind of looked at it as myself, and what have I seen the changes. So cyberbullying, we've seen so many stories of that in the press here. I mean, bullying has always been around from day one, right? So I'm not going to say bullying doesn't exist, but I kind of remember when I was at school age, once you left school, that was it. You were kind of
Yeah.
in your own home. But I can only imagine now looking at your phone, which you think is like your means of escape, to maybe see people piling on you and trolling you. And you see it now in terms of even with celebrities or people on Twitter or Facebook, the pylons that happen if
Yeah.
someone says something that might not even be outrageous. It may just be something that someone doesn't agree with, and the pylons that happen on social media is unreal.
And again, when you look at it, I mean, even in Britain with kind of celebrities that again would really only be predominantly known in the UK. I mean, when you look at in terms of comments and social media comments, they've been linked to a number of suicides as well in the UK. Just as of recent years,
Yeah,
there's loads of social media celebs. Again, reluctant to name names specifically because you don't want to kind of draw attention to all of these instances of people bullying people online. But again, there's been a lot of social media celebrities, again, where you look at the factors as to the reasons why people have ultimately committed suicide and you look at the abuse that they've been getting in the recent months and the months leading up to it. And that's kind of been primary factor leading up to their deaths. And again, it's kind of it goes unchecked, doesn't it? Whereas at school, you had the ability to turn around and, if you wanted to go and tell a teacher, you could. I'm sure that lots of people didn't. I never did. But with social media, there's a report button. Yeah, that's great. But in reality, a person could pop up with another account and they become a different person anyway 2 seconds later. So it's
exactly,
kind of
exactly.
redundant.
But it's more, I think, I feel for the people. Imagine if you're bullied at school and then, like I said, you get home and you look at Twitter and people are targeting you on Twitter or Facebook, you're
Yeah,
being around. It's just the fact that technology has made that kind of behavior almost 24/7.
Yeah, yeah,
And and kind of we see it, maybe not so much bullying, but we've seen like I did a mass unfollowing recently. I go through phases where I follow loads of people and things because I sometimes I like to either be challenged or follow people that maybe I don't necessarily agree with. But one of the ones I unfollowed recently was Piers Morgan. Because it's just, again, it's just not it, but it's take him out of it as well. But it's just the toxicity around the people that then retweet or talk about it, and it's just something I didn't need in my life when I'm reading Twitter trying to find what the latest football news is or what the latest game news is. It's
Y-
just that mentality, and for you say your thing, Twitter and Facebook. Well, it's more Twitter, really, isn't it? I mean, it can be so toxic. So that's what I've done. Is my unfollowings have been to try take out, even in football. The rivalries in football. I've unfollowed a load of accounts because I don't want that element of it. I love football, but I don't like that toxicity that surrounds it.
yeah.
And the thing that sums up social media for me is, have you seen that video of the dogs who are barking at each other either side of a gate? And they're really going at each other, and then the gate it's an electric gate. It opens, so they're at each other's face, and they just walk away from each other. So it's like when the gate is closed, they're
I've seen
really at each
that.
other. The gate opens, and it's like, okay, I'm not having any of this. So that to me is people on social media, I think.
Yeah, and do you know what? Again, the only thing that I was going to add to that is it's difficult now because again, I similarly went through like a mass unfollow on my personal Twitter account because I thought to myself, I was like, I can't be dealing with all of this because it could have been anything. It could have been a video of a dog or a video of puppies or kittens or something. But if you open the thread, there would have been an argument in the comments about something.
Yeah,
Breed of
yeah,
cat is this? What color is the dog? Or there would have been an argument, even again, if it was under like a football post with there's an argument under every single thread. And I just think
yeah,
to myself,
yeah.
like, why are we actively turning around to choose to use this platform to just have a go at randomers or have a go at people that you know for no apparent reason? And again, it just makes no sense to
That's
me.
actually that's spot on because, like I said to you, I used to, sometimes you might follow someone and at the time they're fine, and then you might then not like them. Hence why I've unfollowed some people. And like I said, even at the time, I think years ago, like Piers Morgan, it felt okay. He would tweet about football and some headlines. It's then became, like you said, it's almost like, is it just going for the shock value now? And I hated
Yeah,
that. So I'm
yeah,
following. But what you said is spot on because it's like often I will open, I don't know, let's say there's an Xbox post. I love Xbox. Hi, Microsoft. It'll be something like the new Halo game, and then you'll have someone coming, Xbox shit, PlayStation much better. It's like, so you've had to actively open up or follow a Microsoft account or a Microsoft fan account, or actually open up that tweet, take the time to type out a message, submit it. Why can't you just move on?
yeah.
Why is it? Do
Ignore
you
it.
see what I mean? Yeah, yeah. It's like you said, people just want to have a fight. It feels like it's just
Yeah,
tiring.
I don't know. I don't know if again maybe it's because it's a bit like the dog video that you just talked about. Maybe it's because it gives people the opportunity to be brave and the
Yeah,
opportunity to have a fight just because they want a release, like some
keyboard
sort of
warriors,
like yeah,
keyboard
yeah,
warriors.
it
Yeah.
is. And this is the thing. I can't. I don't know. Again, similarly, I've never been in that position because I've never used social media like that. But maybe I just can't be asked.
No,
I
but
just can't
that's
be
the
asked
thing.
for the aggro.
But that's the thing. It's like, you expect it in certain walks of life. If you're following certain political things, you'd expect to get the opposite view to you. I expect in football, especially in this country, because football is so primal here. But like when you're getting it in like gaming as well, and it's like, geez, do you know? Maybe I just got to go back to like reading books. Sorry, so that was a quick thing. The other thing was I wanted to talk about was fake news. So that's obviously been big in the last couple of years.
Yeah, yeah,
That I think is dangerous. And again, I think it's because we've said people see change and copy it. I think a lot of people do take everything they read on social media to be true and legit.
yeah. I agree.
From a UK perspective, the big one in the last few years was Brexit and all the kind of claims, both sides, leave and
Yeah,
remain. And there's rumours of, sort of foreign powers getting involved and bots creating posts to try sway political opinions one way or another. And again, maybe it's a generational thing where I didn't grow up with it, but I've had it for many years now, so I've seen, both sides. But if you've grown up with it, do you take that as legitimate news?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing as well. And do you know what the problem is with social media is because social media is so different to the way that you would have previously consumed news. So when you look at social media now, you see even the big news networks have all got Twitter accounts, but they post a single picture with an article and it is one title and that's it. And I feel like not many people actually get past that single title and actually click into an article to read what's actually been written. And again, that's I think what I've seen the problem to be, especially with the spreading of fake news. You look at it and people are so quick because social media moves so quickly and there's no checks and balances. People see a headline and all of a sudden, like, that's all I need to know because that's the news for today.
Yeah, you do just skim the headlines, don't you, in
Yeah,
Facebook?
yeah,
But also, it should be the same as anything, especially if it's something important. You've got to take it from a number of sources, right? So, like
yeah,
for example,
yeah,
even the BBC, you shouldn't just read the BBC reporting of it. You want to take in, I don't know, the Guardian or the Express. It's not just about one specific view. Coronavirus recently, obviously, still going through it. There was loads of posts. I remember even seeing it about, and again, not saying here whether you should be pro or anti-vaccine, but loads of things about why you should or shouldn't have it. Cures, I'm sure. I think I saw some posts early on saying that it's fine because garlic is known to cure it. So if people are actually taking garlic in the hope that they're going to stop catching that, again, it's just the fact that for something as huge as coronavirus, people can make joke posts or what they think are legitimate posts on, and people will read it and believe it.
yeah, yeah. You know what? As well, I think that coronavirus has exacerbated, but has also really illustrated where the problem is. Because again, people are, and you know what? I don't know whether or not it's as well because we talked about, well, not you shouldn't get your news from one source and one source alone. And I think that's very true. But is it because social media gives us access to the news sources that give us the information that we want to hear, as opposed to the information that we need to hear? And that's where the problem is as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was literally thinking that before, if you were just looking at the news, that was all you got. But now, like you said, on Twitter, Facebook, etc., you follow what you want to follow, not what necessarily you should follow.
Yeah.
So, what's it called? It's like you put yourself in an echo chamber, I think it's called, where you just surround yourself with the beliefs you believe in and the stuff you want to hear.
Because this is the thing as well. Because again, we've both gone on mass unfollowing sprees. And sorry if you're listening to this and I'm no longer your friend on Facebook. It's not personal.
Oh, I'm just going to check now. Hold on. No, I'm all right. I'm safe. All right, cheers.
But again, it's kind of why I followed a load of people on Facebook as well. Is because like you were just seeing like pictures of like random statistics with no reference to them whatsoever, just randomly go up online, and I just thought to myself, where have you got this information from?
Yeah,
Who's written it? Who's verified it? Why are you posting it with no context whatsoever? And it
yeah,
makes no sense because again, you always see. I used to see, now I don't because I barely follow anyone. I used to see on Twitter a lot. Do you know, like 911 breaking news or whatever it was? So
yeah,
these are
yeah,
like
yeah.
completely unverified news channels randomly putting out articles that are linked to websites that I have never ever heard of in my life. And on this website, it's like said doctor says X, said doctor says
Yeah,
Y. And I'm like, I have got no frame of reference for who in the hell these people actually are.
yeah.
But again, people just turn around and accept it. They're like, "Oh yeah, but it's been posted on social media. I saw it on Twitter. I saw it on Twitter."
It's posted by a doctor and there's a source to it. Yeah, but did you go to the source? Have you
Yeah,
verified
yeah,
what the source is? Scams is another one. So it's something I've seen recently on my Facebook. So and you can link it in with targeted advertising. So, there is this thing that your phones are listening to everything you do and following everything you look at, even outside of the platform itself. So for example, like targeted advertising, you and I were talking about you wanting to buy, you've got into buying sort of classic football shirts, haven't you?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I remember talking to you, we were looking at Tottenham shirts, and I was talking to you about the one that I remember as a kid where they had Holston as a sponsor. And then I remember later on that afternoon looking at my Facebook, and it was asking me, did I want to buy a Holston
yeah. I
Tottenham
remember
shirt?
that.
Yeah,
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 I sent you the picture. And there's been times when I know we've been talking about. I remember once when we were all together and talking to Dad, there was the article about the 50p's here that are really valuable. Those
yeah,
and then on my Facebook, it was all about, have you got this 50p? It could be worth pound signs. And I was thinking, whilst I'm not necessarily saying there's anything wrong with those, but I'm saying again, it's just the fact that it is targeting. We've now got such a way into people's lives and hitting their weak spots potentially that you're probably opening up more. And this is leads into the what I say scams. Social media can now target people's weaknesses. That's what I'm saying, and their vulnerabilities. And like, what I mean by scams is, and I've mentioned before, I've got back into collecting vinyl records massively. I love it. I talk about it all the time. I'm looking at websites, and I've started seeing on my Facebook timeline. It was a video, and then I've subsequently found out they've nicked this video off YouTube. It was a genuine unboxing, so it was like a huge Beatles box set of, I think it was either all their albums and their singles, but it was a massive box set which would be a few £100 if you bought it. It was advertising it for like 60 or 70 quid. I thought, oh, my first reaction was, I'm gonna have a look at that. But then you see it's got a funny shop name, and then you come back to it later, and there's another shop advertising the same product with the same video but under a different name,
Yeah.
and then you see it again, and I was thinking, well, it's obviously a scam. And then reading about it and looking about it, it's fake, and they're just trying to get your details. But it's like, even me, who's quite savvy about scams, because the first thing I saw was something I really really wanted, the initial reaction was the eyes lit up. But then it takes a while to say, right, now hold on, this can't be right. It's too good to be true, and it is.
Well, the thing is as well, like I've seen it as well where I mean specifically I've seen it in like do you know like links that have gone round or like email kind of what would have been sent as emails, but either to like Twitter DMs or links to say, oh look, it's a promotion for a Tesco supermarket or for Amazon vouchers, and it's like a link to a website to just put some details in, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
you get £10
yeah.
voucher, and it's something that's set up to look like the right website, and all of a sudden you put your details in, and somebody spent 6,000 of your hard-earned British pounds on, I don't know, drugs in Colombia or something like that. Do you know what I mean? That's what happens. And the thing is, as well, again, scams have just become such an easy thing to do on social media, and the links again, everything's very very convincing, like you said, with the record shop and that sort of thing. Because I've had a couple of the links to say claim your free 10 quid for your local supermarket or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And I've looked at it and thought, hang on a minute, that web address doesn't look right because it's got an extra dash in it where it shouldn't have. And then all of a sudden you realize, but the amount of people that must get done by stuff like that is unbelievable.
But it's the fact that they can actually target things you're interested in or do. Whereas when you get the random phone calls, like, my mum's had one from, she had it from BT saying her Windows computer was malfunctioning. She doesn't have a computer. She doesn't have the internet. Do you know what I mean? So you can slam the
Yeah.
phone down on that, but these
Yeah.
things are actually targeting you. Sorry, I want to speed through a couple of other things, almost like the fake lifestyle, and that's like the Instagram influencers.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, do you know what? Hang on a minute, no, because we will stick with this, and I know this is going to be a little bit of a long rep, but we can't. I feel like we can't skip over
Settle
this
in,
because there's
listeners. Just yeah, make sure we'll put a cup of tea warning at the start of the episode.
but a really really good example of this is there was a scandal that happened. I don't think it was long ago as well, where there's like a private jet studio in America,
Yes,
and a
I've got it
load of
written
these
down here.
Instagram a load of Instagram models got caught using this private jet like studio, when in actual fact they're just in some like grotty warehouse.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I've said that fake photos show a lifestyle that isn't there. People are looking at it and believing it, and they're aspiring to that, and regretting that they can't have it. And exactly, I've seen those photos. Yeah, it's just a cutout of like the cabin of a private jet, isn't it? And you
Yeah,
just walk
yeah,
up some steps and you're in. It's like a fairground ride. You walk up one side, walk out the other. It's like the ghost train or something. Filters and Photoshop.
yeah. Edited
Almost
pics. Yeah.
everything is filtered now, which again, in and of itself, is fine, but people are looking at these perfect photos all the time, and I think there's a lot of people that compare themselves, and the thing is you can't, because it's filters.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? Just something to link to that as well, because again, this was something that happened. Well, I don't know if it's happened again in America, but again, was really quite prominent in the UK. And it was a lot of social media stars, again, lots of people that had all been done for photoshopping photographs, who were then promoting, do you know, like diet drinks and diet
Oh
pills
yeah, 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 yeah.
and like slimming shakes and that sort of thing. And I just thought to myself, I was like, who is actually regulating you? Because you lot have gone out and evidently had plastic surgery done, and you edit your photographs, and now you're trying to push to your predominantly probably under 25 audience diet pills, when in actual fact you're fully enhanced in terms of in you've had plastic surgery done, and you've also then edited your photographs as well. I just think that that is horrifically immoral. But again, people buy into it because they've bought into the lifestyle of a person that they've been shown. So there's no reason to not believe this person because this person looks amazing and they look fantastic. So if they use this product, I have to use it because I will look like them. And again, I just think what it does is it preys on people that are vulnerable, and there is no check for it because these people are leading fake lives and getting away with it.
And it is also the people that are literally just living through their Instagram accounts. You know, it is just pictures of them out and about. It's almost like, where's the real person?
Yeah, yeah,
The other thing I had about Instagram is, you know, we've seen loads of stories over here about wanting stuff free from shops or meals or restaurants and then threatening the owners. I mean, ask for it. I'm not saying don't, but the fact then you're threatening the restaurant or the business owner if you don't get your freebie or your free meal. I mean, that is what I think is crossing the line. Not even the audacity for asking for it, because that's fair game, right?
yeah, yeah. I agree with that. You got to try your luck. If you don't ask, you don't get. But if you don't get, you can't moan.
Yeah, yeah. Or don't threaten to ruin the business.
Yeah, because I've seen instances where it's been like businesses that have either provided like care products, like beauty products, or again, like you say, like meals, and then all of a sudden there's been DMs that have been exposed on Instagram where someone turns around and says, "Well, if I get X for free, I can just put loads of reviews up for you, and I could share you with my followers. But you know that if you don't do this, my followers can also do the opposite." And I'm like, that is horrific because again, if you're purporting to live such a lifestyle, number one, why do you need it for free to begin with?
Yeah, yeah,
You should
exactly.
be all
Yeah.
right to get it. And if you like it, you should promote it. But again, it's like using social media as an excuse to turn around and be abhorrent. And again, I can't get on board with that either.
Yeah, because why not use that power for good? Like
Yeah,
all the good
exactly.
superheroes. Because why not go to a business, buy something from them, buy that meal, and why not bump their status if you liked it, if you enjoyed it? Why not share some of that and help someone else out?
Because again, you're probably going to get the freebies after you do it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, like you said, which is don't here we go. We're going to go off tangents. It's always like, the stars when they go to the Oscars and they get those bags full of iPads and stuff like that. They're the people that don't need the bags full of iPads, and,
Give the bags to the people waiting outside.
yeah, yeah, they don't need. Anyway, that's a different episode. Instagram, and I can't remember the story fully, but there was a couple who go around the world and they go traveling, and they basically then started asking their followers for money to help fund the next stage of their traveling, and people were giving money, and I'm just thinking it's an odd scenario where it's almost like people are hooked on, is it voyeuristic possibly, they're hooked on a lifestyle that isn't theirs. It's almost like, is it a fantasy that they're living a life through someone else and they get hooked on that? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the storyline from, is it Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio?
I'm going to say I haven't seen that because I generally am the last person that watches the film ever.
Okay, well, just for a bit of context, he kind of like lives the lifestyle of doctors and of airline pilots because he
He's a
wants to
con
get
con
paid
man or
for it.
something, isn't he?
He's a
Yeah,
con man,
yeah,
and that's what it is. Do you know what it is? It feels like people are doing it, but they're exposing themselves to the world for what that is. But the people that have invested in them can't bear to not see them in that position. So that's the thing.
yeah,
It's because on social media, like ultimately, the only reason you watch people or enjoy people on social media is because you have some form of investment in them. I
yeah.
watch particular YouTubers and I've invested time watching their videos. So as a result, I just like them for who they are. But again, I feel like that's where the problem lies. You invest too much time into these people, and ultimately they can get away with doing things that are actually pretty crap.
I would love to actually see or speak to someone. So, say you're following one of these people, like one of those models who had the photo in the fake plane in the back of a warehouse unit.
Never not going to be
What,
funny.
yeah, what the a person who follows them believing everything they see, and I don't mean that in a horrible way but I'd love to know what what that does to you if you follow someone and then you see the fakery.
Yeah, yeah,
Some people probably just laugh it off and say, "Oh well, they are fortunate. They probably just were having a laugh then." But I wonder what that does to some people's sort of trust system. But what I did want to finish on for me, and I find this is where I think, what's the next evolution for life and social media, right? And we said before, it's all about chasing the likes, right, and the social status. Now, there's been a couple of TV programs that have played about with this theory or this topic. So you've watched Black Mirror, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Seen
So
Black
have you
Mirror.
seen the episode called Nosedive? I think it's got Bryce Dallas Howard in it, I think, hasn't it? Where it's set in a world where people can rate each other from 1 to 5 stars
Yeah,
based on the
I've
interact.
seen that one. They've got like a social voting system almost.
Yeah, but even impacts their socio-economic status. So she was due to go to her friend's wedding, but because of, I think she has a few mishaps or accidents along the way, her rating drops so low that her flight is cancelled, but she can't buy a seat on an alternative flight with her current rating. And then she causes a scene which puts her on something called double damage and subtracts a full point for 24 hours. Because of that, she can then only rent a car, an old car, to travel cross country, which she can't even recharge when it runs out of power. And then I think at the end she meets someone, and I'm just looking this up. Yeah, she meets someone who says that she used to care about their rating until her late husband was passed over for vital cancer treatment because their scores were deemed not high enough. And then she felt much freer because she wasn't obsessing over ratings. And I was thinking, again, that is quite an extreme view. That not what we're doing on social media? It's if you get a lot of likes for your statement, the adrenaline rush that people are getting when they get a lot of likes, and if they don't get the likes, so, are they devastated and thinking, why haven't I got these likes?
Yeah, that's the thing. It must be like a milestone thing because again, a photo turns around. Let's say a celebrity for the first time gets 100,000 likes, 1 million likes. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, that got 1 million likes. You post your next photo, and it's only done half of that. You think there must be something wrong. There must be something wrong. What have I done wrong? And in reality, it's true. We look at a person on social media. If we see a celeb, and I turn around and I'm just like, what? How many likes did they get? Okay, they've got 10 million followers, but only 500,000 people like their photo. I'm like, oh, it's not very good.
Yeah, and tweets and stuff only go viral if they get a lot of likes. So what makes that tweet better than anyone else's tweet? It's just
Yeah.
So could we see an evolution? Imagine that, where you live in your life based on how people are rating you. And there was another program. I don't know if you've seen it. I watched the first couple of seasons. So it's by Seth MacFarlane. I can't even speak. Seth MacFarlane. So the guy who does Family Guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was kind of like a space comedy, and it was a very similar story where they land on a planet, and one of the characters does something to a statue, I think, and is given 1 million downvotes by viewers. So it's almost like a mix between social media and reality TV, which I think then gets him arrested. So he then must persuade the public to either pardon him or be subjected to treatment for his actions. And I think that could be being lobotomized, I think, if I remember correctly.
Jesus.
Yeah, if I
Escalated
remember
quickly.
correctly, yeah. Yeah. Basically what they do in that program, I think they hack into the planet's system and upload doctored sympathetic images of that character, which swings the vote in his favor. But again, I love that idea of mixing social media and reality TV to again be another impact on our life. And again, and I know I've read articles and sort of things in the news where people are really upset if their post doesn't get likes, and I think it is not a form of bullying, but almost a social hierarchy in the social media based on how popular someone's post is.
Yeah, yeah. It's a cool concept because you know what? I do turn around and think to myself, ultimately, you kind of like, even online, we look at a social space and we look at someone and immediately think that they must deserve more respect because they've got X amount of followers. And I think that's where we are. When you look at, for instance, I mean, I'm going to link to a program like Love Island. I can't believe I'm going to do this. I only watched two series, I promise. But again, you look at the people that have the most followers on Instagram, and I could, from the last season of Love Island, I could probably tell you that the most well liked people are the ones that have got the most Instagram followers now and get the most likes. But I've just immediately got that perception of them because that's the way they are on social media. When in actual fact, they could have bought 500,000 followers and I'd have no idea.
And this is exactly it. The last thing I was going to say is the whole problem with social media and followers is you can buy followers.
Yeah, yeah. Which
So
is a sad
again,
reality, really.
I can understand why people do it if it achieves that short term bump to get them fame. But again, it's you as a follower. What you're seeing isn't true. Again, it's a false. It's false advertising.
Yeah, it is really, isn't it? But maybe it would be different if I was, well known or if I was famous. I don't know. Might be because of this. You never know. Um,
Well,
but
but okay, so let me put it to you then, though. But would you want to live in a world where translated into reality, where we were judged? I mean, it might make the world a better place if we had to all live by a certain way.
yeah, maybe what we would do is we would just be holding people accountable because you're turning around and holding them to standards because you could put no, I wouldn't like it. I think it would be a horrific idea. But it's true what you say. I think we are going that way. Ultimately, is that Black Mirror really too far away from where we are at the moment? No, because the majority of people's lives are on social media. We purport the best thing that we possibly are doing at that time. In reality, I haven't sat down and posted a photo on my Instagram of me sat watching telly on a Saturday night, have I?
No,
I've posted a
no.
picture of me sat in a hot tub with a glass of champagne when I last went on
Yeah,
holiday 9 months ago because oh wow, he must do that every weekend, mustn't he? So evidently I'm guilty of it as well, which is terrible. But
but
again,
but
it's weird how it consumes you like that.
But that Black Mirror one, what I like, what interests me about that though is it's how though it affects their everyday life. So even about what they can afford. So
Yeah,
it's not about status. It's about, well, no, you want to get on that flight? No, you can't. You want to buy that car? No, you can't. You're not popular enough, or you're not you're. It's almost like personal TripAdvisor score, isn't it, or Trustpilot rating? That's what it is. It's the human Trustpilot rating. Um, but what's to stop that? The thing about that is, and maybe this is how my mind works. It's like, I don't like that person. Oh, you just bumped into it. I'm giving you one. I'm bringing you down a peg. Do you know what I mean? How do you stop people abusing that system?
yeah. You know what? I've actually just thought of a really good business idea. What if there was a Facebook style website, but for people? So it's got everybody has a public profile, and you legitimately can TripAdvisor review them like that. You can say terrible colleague makes crap tea.
Oh, actually, yeah, you heard
Absolutely
it here first.
saw him park in a disabled space.
You, you heard it. You heard it here first. As we've said with a number of things actually in our episodes, there's some fantastic stuff out there. Like I've said to you privately, TikTok was one of the things I was never really into. I was on Twitter and Facebook, but I just thought, oh, it's just videos of people dancing. That's all it was. But I've got massively addicted to it because it's a short burst, short videos. There's some really creative people on there. And I just think it's something fantastic. But then once you start getting hooked on it, or people getting hooked on it, that's then when, like we were saying, reality and not reality maybe, but judgment can start being impaired, can't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that yeah, again, you know what? Again, I've got to be similar to you. TikTok's my favorite platform because it's quick, it's short, and again, like, I buy it. This is I've just illustrated how I buy into social media because I only post good pictures of myself. I want to post a picture of me like looking at television or something really boring, or what I've eaten for dinner that night.
And
Um,
we haven't
uh,
even touched on MySpace or Bebo.
oh, well, you know
Do you
what?
remember those?
No, I don't actually. I didn't have that many. I didn't have enough friends to have those platforms when they first came out, and I was too young. So my social ratings on them wouldn't have been good, anyways. Well, I'm hoping that next time what we're going to do is touch on some more positive things from social media because I feel like you can draw positives, and we focused on a lot of negatives. So if you do have any potential ideas, any thoughts, anybody listening to this, do pop us an email at castingviewspod@gmail.com. You can also send us a tweet at castingviews on Twitter. If you are listening to this, you can leave us a review, obviously, on any of your preferred streaming sites. And I'd like to finish with we know there are lots of podcasts from which to choose, so we thank you for listening to Casting Views.